Newly released surveillance video from the Sebastian County Jail reveals the shocking moments when inmate John Anthony Cole stabbed two sheriff's deputies during a routine cell check. Cole pled guilty to 2 counts of attempted capital murder and was sentenced last month to 200 years in prison. He also pled guilty to a 2021 murder in Fort Smith. 5 News reporter Jacob Luthi spoke with one of the deputies who survived that attack.
Lieutenant Brandon McCaslin, one of the deputies stabbed during the May 9th incident, tells me that critical protocols were not followed that set the stage for the events of that day. But he says it was the swift thinking and determined fight between himself and Deputy Jacob Marr that saved their lives.
I told you I was going to get you.
Were the words inmate John Anthony Cole yelled at Sebastian County Sheriff's deputies Brandon McCaslin and Jacob Marr while stabbing them in the county jail. These images captured the chilling moments on May 9th as deputies fought to restrain Cole, holding him off until reinforcements could step in.
I think what Deputy Marr did allowed me to do what I did, and what I did, we both saved each other's life, and by the grace of God, that happened.
McCaslin tells me that given the nature of Cole's violent history, 2 deputies had to be with him at all times while out in the jail's day center. He says that protocol saved 2 lives.
I don't think he would ever attack us just without a weapon.
That weapon, a metal shank, McCaslin believes was crafted using the metal parts of this mop bucket. Certain protocols were in place to make sure Cole was not able to interact with other inmates. But McCaslin says those protocols were not followed, and he says Cole may have been handed the shank from another inmate.
As a law enforcement officer or a detention deputy or a corrections officer, there's policies and procedures in place for a reason. And if you don't follow them, people can get killed. He was allowed to walk around the pod on several occasions and go door to door and speak to inmates that weren't being weren't under high security like he was inside where he was. They had access to different things and different avenues, and that's where he came up with what he got.
McCaslin was treated and released from the hospital shortly after the event, while Deputy Marr suffered multiple stab wounds, including one to his heart, and underwent surgery. McCaslin says he and Deputy Marr are just lucky to be alive.
I do believe that divine intervention had a lot to do with it. I really do. We're lucky to be alive. We're lucky that we didn't have 2 deputies down there dead. It worked out by the grace of God, or we would have probably had that.
Lieutenant McCaslin tells me that investigations are still ongoing to figure out how exactly Cole obtained the shank, as well as what other protocols may have been missed. He says that multiple deputies have been disciplined. In Fort Smith, covering News Where You Live, Jacob Luthi, 5 News.
A Fayetteville man expected to face murder charges after a victim in an attack at the Seven Hills homeless shelter has died. Investigators say Jaden Lemming attacked 2 victims with a blunt weapon while they were asleep. We spoke to prosecutors about this case today. They say they're still determining if they want to seek capital murder or first-degree murder charges.
So we're going to look at the evidence gathered by the Fayetteville Police Department, review all the reports, information from the medical examiner, and basically premeditation is one of the biggest things that we're going to look for when deciding between capital murder and murder in the first degree.
Lemming is being held tonight in the Washington County Jail. We'll, of course, bring you any updates on the upgraded charges after prosecutors make a decision. It's been another nice day today outside. Rain chances, though, are back in the forecast. Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert now to tell us it could be as soon as tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, likely for some of us. I think really the bulk of the rain, it's going to hold off until Thursday, Friday. But you're right. I've been watching radar closely. Could see 1 or 2 spotty pop-ups this afternoon into this evening. But I'll tell you, the closer we get to sunset, those odds quickly dropping. Meanwhile, currently in the 80s, upper 80s for many of us, holding on to 90 right now in Sallisaw and Podo. Well, tomorrow, it's going to look a little bit like this. Not going to be as cool when you walk out that front door first thing, dropping to around 65 degrees through the 7 o'clock hour, already near the mid-80s by lunchtime under a partly to mostly cloudy sky. We'll see a little bit of sunshine here and there, but those clouds are all in the increase in advance of our next weather system. That is an area of low pressure that does bring some chances of rain to the area, likely more so Thursday and Friday. There could be some weekend impacts there as well. We'll track that rain chance for you. We're also going to take a look at the newest tornado tracks the National Weather Service have confirmed. Multiple tracks to pass along to you this evening. We'll show you where those were coming up here. here in just a few minutes.
All right, Scott, thanks. Water now being released at Beaver Lake Dam after all that recent rainfall. The top of the dam's flood pool sits at an elevation of 1,130 feet, and when the water level gets close to that mark, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers begins a controlled release as a precaution. They say smaller, earlier releases prevent larger ones later on.
We don't really want to wait until we get to elevation 1130 when we're at the top of the dam. If we see enough rainfall runoff as hit the ground, engineers are calculating numbers. They can go ahead and make a decision to begin releasing so that we don't get to that elevation.
Townsend says the engineers are releasing about 8,000 cubic feet of water every second. With 19 inches of rain in the last 70 days, he says these water releases will continue through at least Wednesday, possibly into the weekend, depending on potential rainfall. We learned this week that the state of Oklahoma plans to retry a former death row inmate. State prosecutors announced this week they will move forward with a new trial for Richard Glossip, but this time they say they will not seek the death penalty. Glossip had his conviction overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court for a 1997 murder because of false testimony and withheld evidence in the original trial. Oklahoma's Attorney General Gentner Drummond asked the high court to throw out the conviction, but he still says he believes that Glossip had a role in this crime. He just deserves a fair trial. Legal experts say there's also a possibility he could enter a plea deal and avoid a new trial.
I think they could maybe drop the murder charge and make an accessory to murder and do that, but I think some agreement's going to be worked out that will resolve the case.
Glossip's defense team told the judge this week they plan to request a preliminary hearing. The defense also filed a motion to set bond and release Glossip while he waits a trial. We're also following developments in former reality TV personality Josh Duggar's efforts to file a new appeal. He was convicted of possessing child sexual assault materials. The Supreme Court already denied one appeal this last year. Today, a federal judge denied his request for a new lawyer. Duggar asked for the new attorney in order to review his allegations of constitutional violations in his case. Arkansas governor is weighing in tonight on the president's decision to utilize the U.S. military to regulate immigration protests happening out in L.A. 2,000 troops are on the ground in L.A. with the assistance of 700 U.S. Marines, all under the direction of President Trump. State and local leaders usually have to ask for that kind of help, but California has not done that. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders spoke on the issue today, placing fault for the unrest on the leadership in L.A.
I'm a big fan of order over chaos, and I think the president is absolutely 100% right to step in. Frankly, he shouldn't have to, but because of their failures, he needs to.
Governor expressed respect for demonstrating free speech, but not at the expense of public disruption.